Well, yes, we can work it out, everybody. And I'm Beatty and welcome again, my friends, to the Ask Beatty Show. And for those of you who've been listening, I can't even believe that I'm going into the 12th year that I have been hosting the Ask Beatty Show on a weekly basis here on the Progressive Radio Network. But for those of you who are new and you're wondering, what is this we can work it out business and who is Beatty Cohn-Bradhouse? Well, I am a nationally recognized psychotherapist and a sex therapist. Yes, one of those. I am also the author of the groundbreaking book on relationships. And I say this all the time. I only wish that I had had this book when I was starting out in my own dating and relationship life. I'm also the advice columnist for Dan's papers in the Hamptons and in Palm Beach. I write 2 Ask Beatty columns every month, and of course you can read them all online if you are not in the Hamptons, although they actually have the magazines throughout New York City as well. I'm a national speaker, national radio and television expert guest, and I think that probably the greatest passion, other than my husband, Jim, is really what I do in my private practice. And I have a private practice here in beautiful, beautiful, sunny today, New York City, and also in East Hampton, where I treat people who have a variety of issues, including depression and anxiety and a variety of other psychiatric and emotional sorts of issues, addictions of various different kinds. And I think that I'm probably known best for the relationship part of my practice. So what is the Ask Beatty Show really all about? Well, in one word, it's really about empowerment. The fact is that we all go through so many ups and downs in our life. And trust me, my friends, nobody is immune. Not if you are rich or poor or black or white or Hispanic or gay or straight or trans. The fact is that we all have issues. But the mantra that I have tried very, very hard to incorporate in my own life and also to teach my own patients is our willingness and seriousness to be willing to acknowledge and address and resolve as best as we can, even though we can't change our history. I mean, let's face it, we can't change anything that happened a second ago, but to be able to work through our issues so that we are once and for all able to live in the moment without having one foot in the past and one foot in the present. And one of the things that I really hope that I have convinced you over the years is that we don't need to navigate all of this on our own. It is way too difficult. And hopefully you're someone that has loving family and friends and a support group. But even, with that, sometimes we all need to reach out and ask for really great professional help. And as you've heard me talking over the years, all help is not great, and we really need to do our due diligence, whether or not we are choosing a therapist, whether or not we are choosing a doctor or a dentist or a lawyer. So again, the other thing I wanted to not forget to mention is to really thank you all so much for all these years, for being so supportive of me and so supportive of this show. And I really thank you for the emails and the comments, and we don't always agree, but that's okay too. Because what we want to do, we want to have dialogue, we want to have conversation, we want to find ways to find a win-win resolution to our issues, if at all possible. Before I introduce my guest today, as all of you know, I give you a weekly checkup, and that weekly checkup is a how am I doing checkup, beginning with your mental health. And this is about really being honest with oneself. So how are you actually doing when it comes to your mental health, the depression, the anxiety? Do you feel that you're really on the right path? Or do you feel that you're gonna just kind of going around and round in circles? And it's so important that we are honest with ourselves. And if you're finding that things are not going well, and they haven't been going well, not just for a week, not just for a month, and for some people, many people who I see in my private practice, they haven't been doing well for years. So today is a new day, as my late father used to tell me. Today is a new day. And today you have the opportunity to make a decision and reach out and ask for really good professional help. Because trust me, I see people who've had depression issues for most of their life, where there's been early child sexual abuse, domestic violence, and problems of every conceivable kind. And yet when we dig in, when we really dig in, and we work through what I call, as best as we can, our skeletons in the closet and our unfinished business, life can really, really take a turn for the better. So are you ready today to be willing to finally acknowledge, address, and resolve the things that are continuing to get in the way of your life and your relationship? And talking about relationships, how are your relationships? Again, I have a zero toxicity policy when it comes to relationships. So in looking at your family and your friends and your colleagues, how are they? Hopefully, again, you're on a really good path. But if things are off, are you willing to sit down and have the conversations and have the discussions about what's going on, about what is not going on? Because discussion is so critical. It is so critical. I mean, that's really the first, really the first phase of being able to work through issues. And I think that what we found more and more, and I think many people will agree, there is really a lost art of conversation. I think we're so busy, we're on our devices and on our phones, but there's a really lot of meaningful conversation going on. And I ask people this all the time, and I think if they're really being honest with themselves, many people say no. So again, looking at your relationships, and it's not about throwing people away necessarily, but again, it is about willing to tackle the relationship issues. You've now agreed to tackle your own individual issues. So now it's about tackling your relationship issues. What about things like substance abuse? I know that many people say, well, we're trying. I'm maybe taking too many pills, or I'm having too many extra drinks. But again, are you willing to be honest with yourself? And again, to try to live your life in ways that are really in your best interest. And this is something that I ask patients all the time, to kind of self-monitor themselves a little bit and ask themselves this one question: is this, whatever this is this good for me? Am I being good to myself? You deserve to be good to yourself and not engage in destructive and self-destructive kinds of behavior. And again, when it comes to our lifestyle, everybody's busy, we're running here and running there. So important that you remind yourself on a daily basis, not just once a year or twice a year, that you're taking care of yourself, that you're exercising, that you're eating well, that you're getting sufficient sleep. And all of these things contribute to our being able to live a joyful and happy life. So this self-care part happens to be really, really important. So again, I hope that you're on the good path. But what happens as you take my weekly test and you say, it's still not happening for me? What is it? We can complain forevermore, but is it the avoidance or denial or the blame or the self-blame that is really keeping you on a never-ending roller coaster ride that is really not in your best interest? And the fact is that it takes a lot of courage. And I say to my patients, all the time, It's really a strength and not a weakness to be able to acknowledge, I need some help. I just can't quite get there on my own. So it does. It takes a lot of courage to be willing to say to yourself, look, things are not going as well as I would like, and they may not have been going as well as I would like for many, many years. But the real question is, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? And please, please, please tell yourself that you don't need to navigate life's ups and downs on your own. So whether or not you're talking about support groups, whether or not you're talking about just finding a therapist. And it doesn't mean if you're going to be in therapy, you don't necessarily have to be in therapy for 1,000 years. Sometimes just getting a handle on what the things are that are really getting in the way of your being able to get to where you really want to go, that could be a real eye-opener for yourself. So I hope every week, I hope that I have convinced you to check in with yourself and to be willing again to acknowledge, address, and resolve as best as we can the things that continue to get in the way of our life and our relationship. And it is amazing, what you will be able to achieve for yourself. Well, I am very excited today. I have a very, very special guest. Her name is Kristen Leindecker. And even though Kristen and I, we've been wanting to get together for the last few weeks, and this is going to be our first meeting, of course, on the Ask Beatty show. Kristen is an attorney, admitted to practice in New York, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania. And she is also, this is something very exciting for me, she's also a licensed social worker. And Kristen, she earned her MSW at Columbia University I was going to say in Montreal, but that is where I received my MSW at McGill University in Montreal. But anyways, Kristen, she became a social worker, MSW at Columbia University. So Kristen, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad to finally meet you in person on Zoom.
Thank you. I'm so happy to meet you too. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being here today. So tell me the transition. You were a social worker. You worked in all kinds of areas in the world of social work. What made you decide, from working with kids and child and family service agencies, what made you decide that you were going to make the switch, make the change, and become an attorney?
So originally when I went to social work school, one of my field placements was a CASA. So I was a court appointed special advocate, advocating for children in foster care in family court. In this situation, it was in Queens County. During that time, I started thinking that maybe I should continue and become a lawyer. And I did end up going to law school, and I worked for an adoption attorney because I knew I wanted to work with children in some capacity as a lawyer and be able to still use what I had learned and enjoyed in social work school and in practice. So that is how I ended up in matrimonial family. I then was working in the traditional, kind of litigation realm and was very unhappy.
Yes.
Crying in the bathroom, unhappy, and it took me some time to really discover mediation and also collaborative law on a serious, level. I had gone to Pepperdine University School of Law in Malibu, which is considered the best in the country for, dispute resolution for me, which includes mediation and collaborative law. But I did not see that as an opportunity, like right off, at the beginning when you pass the bar, you apply to jobs. I mean, really the only people that were hiring were litigation people. So it took me a few years, but I did find it, and I have been forever grateful and loving my work.
And not crying in the bathroom.
And not literally never once. Yeah. I mean, I have had situations that are emotional, and challenging, obviously, but I feel like they've always been handled in a very authentic, transparent kind of way where, conversation is often, as you just said so eloquently, it's difficult. It's but it's so important. I mean, there's really no growth if you can't have understanding and real communication, and make informed decisions and commit to them, and move forward with your life, whether you're doing that in partnership with someone else, or with your friend, or with your mother, or with yourself.
Right. No, it's so true. A couple of weeks ago, I wrote, one of my Ask Beauty articles in Dan's papers, the lost art of conversation, and how it's destroying relationships, where we have this mindset in our society, where winning is everything, and you don't want to be a loser, and I'm right and you're wrong. And the reality, of course, is this kind of mindset, which is why, of course, I chose, the We Can Work It Out, intro song for the show today. It's destroying us personally and professionally and politically. And I found, I was doing some consulting at East Hampton High School last year, and the kids, they need so much help in just being able to talk, in being able to communicate, being able to communicate feelings, and it's not just in East Hampton High School, where we can have discussions where you and we may have big disagreements, but at least we want to engage. And maybe through our discussions that we can come up. And I believe this so strongly, whether we're talking about governments, whether we're talking about the Middle East, whether we're talking about divorcing couples, or couples that are in intact families, where the art of communication, where we're listening and hearing, where the goal is a win-win resolution. I'm a former Canadian junior number 10 tennis champion, and I've spent my whole life, and I still play and I still compete. And the mindset that I grew up with as a competitive athlete, I competed nationally in badminton and figure skating, and of course tennis was really my thing. There was no question that winning was, of course, everything. It was important. I loved the sport. My dad and mom coached me throughout. We're not on the tennis courts. Yesterday I was at the U.S. Open, and of course the players, you want to win, but that's a different world. In our other worlds, I mean, it shouldn't be so difficult if there is a desire, right, to talk, to disagree, to compromise, to maybe make some trade-offs along the way, where we come out win-win rather than lose-win, which is always lose-lose,
Mhm.
right?
I agree with you. We're social beings. I think to win for us is to have um, a, a group of people in our lives, that we can have like honest conversations with, trust, get support from, love, and vice versa. I mean, it is, it's not a sport. There's no need for like a winner and a loser. I mean, it really is. It's about building a community and having that community to go through the ups and downs of life with, and um, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think it's important to try to keep an open mind. I think we're all guilty of it. I am as well, especially politically, kind of being polarized and
Right.
having a hard time sometimes seeing other people's, positions. But I think we should try to get beyond positions in general and
Right.
get to underlying interests and needs. And if we could do that, we would see that we're all pretty similar,
Exactly.
and that we all want and actually need pretty much the same things. We're just approaching it in different ways, and sometimes just at parroting, what we've heard.
Exactly. And this is where I think the schools, they have such an important role to teach the kids about, as you say, about conflict resolution. And I don't think that this is really being taught in the schools. And if the children aren't getting it at home, I mean, they're really left. We're all kind of left to our own devices to figure this all out. And you're right, I'm wrong. That whole paradigm. I mean, it really is it's so destructive. It's so self-destructive. It gets people absolutely nowhere. It just creates more and more isolation and anger and alienation. And so people like you and me, we do our very best to try to teach people and encourage people to at least have the dialogue. And as you said, Kristen, with an open kind of a mind. And I know that I've learned so much when I'm listening to people who come from very different backgrounds and who've had very, very different personal and professional and even political experiences. It's like, oh my. But you have to be open. You have to be wanting to hear what, in quotes, the other has to say, so that maybe over time, there isn't going to be this me, you, other sort of dynamic really, going on. A lot of people, by the way, are confused by the term collaborative divorce. So let my listeners know what exactly it is, how you process this whole dynamic with people. Just kind of take us through the process, including who your clients are that contact you asking for a kinder, gentler Canadian, of course I'm Canadian, way of maneuvering their divorce.
So when I will talk about collaborative divorce in New York. So
Yes.
this New York State scenario. So collaborative divorce is considered an alternative dispute resolution, process, in that parties are agreeing to stay out of court. So most often when someone comes to me, they send me an email through my website. They might not know they want collaborative. They know they want to stay out of court. They're considering mediation. They're kind of interested in hearing more about collaborative law because, as you said, a lot of people I think don't quite, understand it yet. But I think it is a great process for someone who wants attorney advocacy and a little bit more support that mediation doesn't offer. Because in mediation, both spouses are working, or fiancés in a prenup situation are working with the mediator as a neutral. And when I'm in that role, I am, I'm educating them. I'm making sure that they're making informed choices, that they're addressing every term that needs to be, discussed and included. And then I'm suggesting that they also retain review or consulting attorneys to review at least the final agreement on their behalf, or the draft.
So that's with mediation.
That's with mediation. So I, as that attorney mediator, would be the neutral. So I'm not advocating for either person. I'm making sure that they're doing things like reality testing, and I'm educating them about the law and kind of what other people do and what might work and stuff like that. But I'm still remaining neutral. In a mediator role. In a collaborative role, I'm actually representing one of the parties, and the other spouse would also be retaining a collaborative attorney. And then we're all agreeing, we're all signing a collaborative participation agreement to stay out of court. So the whole process will stay out of court as a, very discussion friendly. I can't really say mediation because both people have an attorney, but it is like, negotiations, but it's a real conversations about interests and about options and, the best way for them to come up with an agreement that works best for their individual and family needs. If there are children, keeping the kids first. The other piece with collaborative that's really awesome is it's often an entire team. So you can also, people can choose to work with a financial neutral, who will be gathering all of the information, going through all of the assets, debts, property, potential, like the needs for spousal maintenance, the child support, discussion, all of that, but in a neutral way. This person can also do like a business valuation if that's needed. The other member of the team could be a mental health professional who would work as a like a family coach in terms of helping improve communication, and also as a child specialist looking at the best interest of the child in the capacity of coming up with the parenting schedule and the co-parenting plan, and stuff like that. So it's very, so is mediation. I feel like almost every case is very it's very individual, like it's very based on the needs of the family. So
So let me ask you this. So in mediation, because I think that sometimes people are confused about the difference between mediation and collaborative divorce. So in mediation, let's say if you were the mediator, it would be you and the couple who are going through the process of divorce. That's it. In the room, the three of you.
correct. I mean, 99% of the time, you could also, they could have attorney representation. If I have a court referred case, there are attorneys in the room.
Right. But
you know what I mean? And I'm still working. I am the neutral mediator.
right. Now in collaborative divorce, so this is interesting. So there could be a team of people in the room, including all the people that you mentioned as potential resources that would be helping to come up with an agreement that would be in the best interest of everyone.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Tell me, with mediation, if it's going well, how long typically does it take? The couple, they've agreed, they don't want to go to court, they've hired you as let's say as a mediator in scenario number one. How long does it usually take to come up with a win-win resolution and agreement?
I think that is one of the most commonly asked questions during every consultation. And I always say it's completely dependent on the two of you. It is like how much are you already aligned? How much are you informed? How much are you already on the same page? How well are you able to communicate? And how quickly do you make decisions? But I can tell you that I have an agreement I'm drafting right now for clients who I only met with them twice, and they are just honestly fabulous and organized. And they already had a lot of conversations before they even retained me. They are on the same page, like they have come up with something that is, I think, tailored to their family, keeping their kids, front and center, and something that seems very fair, very equitable. And they're both very happy with. And I am drafting the agreement after just 2 mediations. That is not probably the norm. I would say for most people, it is 6 mediations. And when I say that, I schedule 2-hour meetings.
Right.
Sometimes we end early. Sometimes people delay. Sometimes it's 1.5 years. People, they have an apartment to sell. They want to see what it sells for. They have things in their life, like people continue living their lives. So they have like real life stuff happen too. Where they pause, they might pause for a month or 2. Sometimes I get the agreement draft out to a couple, and they look it over for 2 months. They're not much of a hurry. Other people have a sort of time frame.
Right. So let me ask you this. So a woman, let's assume for the moment, the woman contacts you and she meets with you individually just to see, or is there good chemistry? Are the vibes good? Do you like each other? Okay. Now the husband then, assuming that this is a heterosexual couple, and of course these days we cannot assume anything like that, would he then want to come in and meet you before agreeing that he is going to engage in this mediation process with you? Is that how it usually works?
100%. But no, he would want to, yes. But that is not how it usually works, because I actually, when I get the phone call or the email, asking for a consultation, I actually do enough questioning to determine, if they're really mediation heavy, wanting mediation, I actually ask them to put the spouse on the communication moving forward. I also need the name of the spouse for a conflicts check, to begin with. But I say, it sounds like you're really looking, at mediation here. I think it's the most efficient, to include your spouse on future communications and to do a consultation together.
Right, and that's typically what happens, is that they will have a consultation together and see whether or not this is going to feel good enough, for both of them to proceed. And then with the collaborative divorce, is it the same kind of process? Because each spouse, as you said, has their own attorney.
Right. With the collaborative, I would just be doing a consultation, which I offer a free 30-minute, consultation to help people, excuse me, determine what's best for them. But that would be me just meeting with that one person who is considering, retaining me for a collaborative divorce. And then I provide the website with all of the other attorneys on it, New York Collaborative Professionals.org, the NYACP, and I also recommend other attorneys to them to share with their spouse.
Now, is it ethical for you then, in this collaborative divorce scenario, to kind of represent, in quotes, both parties? Or is it deemed necessary and ethically sound for each person? One would have you, and then the other spouse would hire their own attorney as part of, as you said, as part of the team.
I would never represent both people in a collaborative divorce.
Aha, interesting. And why is that?
Because there is a conflict of interest that would be seen as adversarial. Yeah, I mean, with collaborative, each person has their own attorney. Unlike mediation, where I am the mediator, to be a mediator, you don't even have to be an attorney, actually.
Right.
There are mediators who are mental health professionals, working with clients too. So yes, it's in the capacity of a mediator, and also I would say an educator. I'm not providing advocacy, but I am facilitating conversation, understanding, trying to get to, shared interests and decisions and, stuff like that, to draft an agreement.
So if people listening right now, I mean, hopefully nobody's going to want to get a divorce, but let's say that divorce is on the table. What would the criteria be for someone choosing to go the mediation route with you as a neutral person who's going to help them, with all the different issues that go into, a divorce, versus they're opting to meet with you, or at least one is, and then bringing in the entire collaborative divorce team? Why A versus B?
I would say mediation is best suited for couples who feel that they can have good conversations, decisions. They're kind of on the same page in terms of understanding of their finances and their situation. There's no concern about lack of transparency with finances. Like, one person doesn't manage everything and the other person has literally no clue. Right. They have the capacity to understand that sort of stuff. They generally, the people I work with, with children, they have a pretty good working relationship. Like, they have a sense of what has been working, status quo in terms of, time wise with the children, and They have a sense of what they're going to do about where they're both going to live and how they're going to work that out with the kids.
Right.
And also, generally, they want joint legal custody. That's major decision making around, things like medical, religion, finances, education. Sorry, finances. I didn't mean to say stuff around, but child expenses is another, area that they have to discuss. But and also often my clients also have they decide joint physical custody, which is time sharing, and even if it's not a 50-50, they're still going with the joint. The intention is for both of them to have meaningful relationships and time with their kids, and they're really planning to co-parent. It's not a situation where one person is completely in charge of the children all the time, the decision making, all of the time is with them, and the other person has the children like every other Wednesday night for dinner and every other weekend or something.
Right.
So they're looking to, I would say, have total control over their decision making, and their process. I mean, mediation is great because it generally saves you a lot of money.
Yes.
I would say a lot of time. There's no need to do like a full discovery. I'm not having them fill out like statement of net worths. We don't have to file with the court. They don't have to have it notarized. I'm not going through their finances and asking for like, all of the information for the 50 different accounts. It's like
So
that.
there's a lot of, it sounds like there's a lot of trust, even though the couple, their marriage didn't work, there seems to be quite a bit of trust and respect and even friendship involved in opting for the mediation process. And, I was very curious over the years, are you seeing a difference in terms of the people's age, the people who are opting for mediation, age-wise, socioeconomic-wise, as compared to the people who are opting for a collaborative divorce? And the other thing that just came to my mind, Kristen, was are you seeing a difference in the length of marriage, the length of years that the people have been married, in terms of who opts for mediation as compared to who opts for collaborative divorce?
Okay, so I will try to remember everything you just asked me. But yes, you are 100% correct when it comes to mediation. There is respect. There is
Yeah.
absolutely friendship, and there's also trust. Yes, enough that they have decided to choose, that process where they're making all of they're decided, they're not hiding behind an attorney. They're
Right, right.
Okay, so you asked me time, ages. So I would say no, I am seeing all different ages.
Uh-huh.
Really choose mediation all totally across the socioeconomic,
Interesting.
total, like absolutely. Same with collaborative. I would say collaborative, there are generally more assets.
Yes.
I wouldn't say more than mediation. I would just say no one's choosing collaborative if they don't have any assets.
Uh-huh.
Generally people choosing collaborative, yes, I would say they're probably generally older. There's just kind of more to sort out.
Right.
It's complex, maybe, or as complex as they want it to be, because also I have very complex situations with mediation too, but because they have such a good kind of handle on it, and they know that they know what they want to do with everything, they feel confident using a mediator, and then, most likely the review attorneys to advocate for them also, especially at the end with the reviewing of the final agreement. With collaborative law, I would say it is very useful for people who have more complex finances. Maybe some people choose it because of children, but I feel like I see more people with young children in mediation, or even older children in mediation. And also, I think sometimes people choose collaborative because they want to make sure they can use the financial neutral for like a business valuation, which is pretty complex. If someone's an entrepreneur, or if someone's income is kind of complicated, you know.
Right.
So
Right. So it sounds like with collaborative divorce, there's more in depth. I don't want to use the word sort of digging. There's a greater, the people seem to feel that there's a greater need for the team to work out all these details than just to work with a mediator, a neutral mediator. There are more things kind of at stake.
yes, I would also say something you said. I hope I didn't just forget what I was going to say. With collaborative also, um, I feel like there's just more support too. Like sometimes, people actually don't communicate great, and there's a lot of, you know, complicated emotion and stuff going on too, where the mental health professional can really help. But it can also help to have an attorney by your side, you know?
Right.
And I still think generally it's a better option than litigating.
Yeah.
So it does keep you out of court, but it gives you like really all of the good things about court, in a way, because I know when I'm a collaborative attorney, 100%, I'm really looking, they do fill out statement of net worths, and I am really looking at all the finances in a way that as a mediator, I'm not.
Right.
The mediator, I'm asking them if this is accurate information and if they trust one another,
Right.
and if they feel there's been full disclosure and total financial transparency, and they know what's in the accounts. Like no one's hiding an account,
Right.
is the understanding. So, but with collaborative, I am acting as an attorney.
Right. And
For,
representing really in
yeah,
quotes your client,
yeah.
right? Your client.
Not in quotes. 100%, I am representing my client. That is
Yes,
my one
yes,
job.
yes,
If
yes.
the other professionals can help out, and if the other attorney's awesome, that's great, and we can have real conversations, and I
Right.
can say, I don't know if this doesn't seem accurate,
Right.
but we're not threatening litigation.
Yes, yes.
We're not, and we're
And the
also not
process.
manipulating one another, and we're not, as attorneys, we're not doing that.
Now, the process, the actual process, typically for collaborative divorce as compared to mediation, does it take, because there are more things that you're sort of digging into and needing to sort out, using all the resources of the team, does it take a lot longer to go through that process versus the more simpler mediation process or simpler sounding mediation process?
I would say generally yes.
Uh-huh.
But it's also more difficult to, even if it's on Zoom, to get everyone to have the same time on their calendar free, for a meeting and stuff.
Yes,
There
yes,
are more steps, but there's also, for good reason too. I mean, stuff is more reviewed, like going through the
right.
finances, if there's a need for a business valuation, like bringing in you bring in a CPA who's a collaborative
Right.
financial neutral, trained in that capacity. This person's generally asking for quite a bit of information in detail about everything financial.
Mhm.
You know,
Do you
so
see the trend really more and more that people are opting for mediation and collaborative divorce? You think that there's going to be a time when we will see, really very few people, opting for litigation in a court?
I mean, I really hope so. I do think it's trending that way, and I do know that I'm on the mediation panel of Richmond County, which is Staten Island, Bronx County, and also New York County, which is Manhattan. I see even in Wyoming, I feel like I just get more and more information sent to me about the courts really pushing mediation, not just with
Yes.
matrimonial, in every way. And I think it's the right direction to go. And generally, I think the courts love it because honestly, it takes people off their calendar that is already backed up. And it's just a healthier way, I think, to deal with conflict.
Absolutely.
You know, I personally, that's what I do, so that's what I see also. Um, but I do think it is something. I think collaborative law is still, as you pointed out, not well known, and I think it should be because I think it's awesome, and I think it's the better option for some people. I think mediation has gained some popularity, kind of mainstream, maybe because of media.
Yes, yes.
It's just more talked about, but collaborative is another really great alternative.
No, it sounds as if, I mean, if people are going to be going through a divorce, that if at all possible, it should be either mediation or collaborative divorce. I mean, you think about it. I mean, especially people who have children, they're going to be involved with each other in one way or another forevermore. And you talk about what is in the best interest of the children and what is in the best interest of themselves, mental health wise, financially. I mean, everything. I mean, when you think about it, it's really a no brainer. And people who are choosing to go the court route, I mean, they clearly have a lot of unfinished business, a lot of issues, the need to win and the need for you to lose and the need for me to be right and the need for you to be wrong. And it's a killer. I mean, it's such as you know, as we know. I mean, it's such a self-destructive way to live, with the outcome probably being similar, if not identical, right, to
with,
what will happen in mediation or in going through collaborative divorce.
with like so much money spent on litigation that there's less money left to divide ultimately. I mean, I do. There is a need for litigation still in matrimonial. If there's abuse, emotional,
Yes.
physical, financial, lack of transparency, all of those reasons. I am sometimes thrilled. I love my litigation people that I refer to, and sometimes I am thrilled that I have them to send someone to, because there actually is a need, for that type of protection that the court offers. If someone's going to use mediation or collaborative to stall, to
Right.
take advantage of someone to try to not disclose, like I said, some secret account, something like that. So sometimes there is a need for the protection of, the court and litigation attorneys, for sure.
It's interesting that you use the word protection, and that word, didn't come up when we were talking about mediation or collaborative divorce. So the protection of the
Well,
court is
once you're on the court's radar and you're on the court's calendar, you have to produce, you have
right,
hearings, you have deadlines. I mean, sometimes they exist for a reason.
right, right, right.
And
No,
sometimes, thank God that's an option too. I'm not like saying that going to court is sometimes the best remedy, or the best option.
mhm. When you say it, when you say that, a situation where that may be the best and maybe the only option would be one where what was happening or what was not happening.
I would say a situation where someone is in a, domestic violence situation,
Yes,
really
yes.
empowered and not actually informed about what's going on and not comfortable, even, dealing with the other person,
Right,
and
right,
they shouldn't have to. They should
right,
actually hide behind their attorney. They should have someone advocate for them.
right, right. So that if you're not feeling safe emotionally or psychologically or physically or financially, then that becomes pretty clear that the mediation process and the collaborative divorce process is simply not the way to go.
It's not enough. And in that situation, if they do find themselves in court, there might be one issue that could be referred out for mediation. you know,
Mhm.
like an issue, but not the entire. Yeah, I don't think it's the right context.
Right, right, right. No, this is a wonderful discussion, which really clarifies. It really clarifies, if you're going through this, sad process, and it is a sad process. I mean, people get married with hopes and dreams, and you hope that, you're not going to end up in a mediation situation or a collaborative divorce situation or a litigation. But the reality is, I mean, the statistics that I cite every single week, we're talking about a 48% divorce rate for first marriages, a 67% divorce rate for second marriages, and a 72% divorce rate for third marriages. So the reality is, yes, is we're doing very badly in the world of relationships. And and of course, that's another discussion for another time that I'll be very happy to share with you when we actually get to together, which is about my research and book, about really how to assess who's right for you and who's wrong for you before committing to any serious relationship. I think we don't do our due diligence before, and then we find ourselves, sooner or later, like, oh my God, what's happened? Who did I marry? I think people frequently marry people who they don't know at all. But again, that's another show, another program, another discussion. So listen, how can people reach you?
Um, uh, my website I can
Good.
give you. That's
Okay.
probably the easiest. So it's my name is Kristen Gail Leindecker. I always include the G because it's my mom's name.
Okay, great. That's important.
KGLmediation.com.
Okay,
And there's
great.
you can send a question. My phone number's there. I'm very reachable. I wanted to say one thing to add on to what you just said. I think it's so awesome that you do that, and I think a piece that should be part of that is also like the stuff that I do with people during prenups. I think of prenups
Yes,
as such a happy time, and I'm always like, look, the most important thing you're doing
yes,
here is having a conversation about expectations, uh,
yes,
your intentions, and also you're informed now, and like a contract, an agreement at the very like basis, of what it is a meeting of the minds. I mean, it's all about knowing what the other one's expecting and making sure that you're on the same page, and that's
exactly.
what a prenup provides for, which is so great. And then hopefully no one needs it.
Right. Well, what I found, I mean, I had done research with 450 people in the Boston, Providence, Connecticut area, and I came up with this formula, this 10-step formula, and I find that most people really don't know who they're marrying in all kinds of ways. When people ask me, so what have you found that are the two most important ingredients that make or break a relationship or a marriage? I used to, sort of jokingly say, well, I'm sorry, it's not sexy, it's not romantic, but it happens to be emotional communication and problem solving. And if we can't talk about issues, if we really can't dig deep and deal, it's not just about, I know one of the lines in my book is, wedding is for a day, and hopefully a marriage is for a lifetime. And with the statistics that we're seeing, we're all going to need to do a much better job, in preparing ourselves and preparing people, for what I think, is an incredibly important milestone in our lives, if you choose to go that route. Kristen, it's 3:57 in New York City. I can't even believe where the time has gone. There's so many more things that I wanted to talk with you about, but we will definitely do that. And again, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. All of your contact information will be on the Progressive Radio Network archive site, so people will be able to find you and call you if they are going through a divorce. And so, my dear listeners, I want to thank you all every week, as you do, to tune in here to the Ask Beatty Show. And I really hope every week that you're able to take some little thing, it may not be a big thing, some little thing that will actually help you to improve your day and maybe even improve the quality of your life. and the quality of your relationship. And I really want to leave you with my 2 weekly messages, the same messages, Kristen, every single week. The first, of course, is that I hope that you are doing as individuals and families everything that you can possibly do to be living your life authentically in ways that are really, really in your best interest. And secondly, we all need to be doing a much, much, much better job in learning to accept and learning to understand each other, whether we're talking personally or professionally or politically. So I wish you all a really, really good rest of the day. So be good to yourselves and be good to each other. And next week is Labor Day, so that I will be speaking with you again in 2 weeks. I hope you're enjoying the rest of the summer. The weather is so beautiful. It was a perfect day. I was on the tennis courts this morning at 9 o'clock with my pro. It was a great way to start off the day. So again, everybody, have a good rest of the day, and we'll talk soon. Take care.
Thank you so much.